You're listening to the Journey Podcast. Join us today on a journey of discovery as we unravel the intriguing narrative behind the surge in single populations and its profound impact on the landscape of chronic health conditions. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Petra Brunbauer, and with decades of experience with sadness, pain, anxiety, and stress, I finally figured out how to leave all that behind. And this podcast shows you how to break free permanently so you can reclaim your sanity and find the self-esteem and energy to go after the life you desire. With real talk about mental health, holistic healing, and the tough journey of coming out the other end. This is the Journey Podcast. Welcome to today's episode. In this episode, we delve into the intriguing relationship between the rise of single individuals and the prevalence of chronic illness in society. We explore the various factors contributing to this phenomenon and unpack the complex interplay between societal trends and health outcomes. We examine the potential reasons behind the simultaneous increase in singlehood and chronic illness, shedding light on the broader implications for individuals and communities alike. Join us as we navigate the landscape of modern life, seeking to understand the underlying dynamics driving the rise of singles linked with battling chronic illness. We embark on a journey of discovery and reflection, uncovering new insights and perspectives that may pave the way for improved understanding and support for those navigating the intersection of singlehood and chronic health challenges. Eva Vennari is the founder and CEO of the Elevate Institute, a cutting-edge, true holistic health practitioner firm specializing in empowering overburdened adults to take charge of their body, their decisions, and their energy. Let's meet Eva Vennari. Hi, Eva. It's so great to have you on the podcast today. I've been looking forward to getting to chat with you because the rise of singles linked with battling chronic illness is such a fascinating topic for today's conversation. And I'm so glad you're here. Welcome to the podcast.
I'm so glad to be here. It's kind of a lifelong journey of discovery to come to this, not a conclusion, but just raising a question of what can we do about it?
Yeah, fascinating. I can't wait to dive in. For starters, do you want to share a little bit about yourself and sort of your story and how you've come to do what you do today, and maybe even tell us what you do today?
Officially, my work seems to be all about removing the blocks that takes you to the next step of your life, whatever that is. And if you could see that block for yourself, you're smart, you're intelligent, you would have done it by now. I'm that backseat driver that says, oh, wait a minute, you've got something in your way. That's really my work here. But I'm an enigma and a spiritual alchemist. And I got here through a course of being a hot mess myself, having married young, having kids, finding that I chose poorly and needed to divorce and move on. That created not only my chronic illnesses, or I should say it was part and parcel that came with chronic illnesses to have relationship issues. But I also noticed that this was back in 1998 that I divorced. It is not 1998 any longer. It is a long time that I have remained single, and for good reason. And I want to talk about that because I see it among my colleagues, my friends, and it became very evident that as people that were working with me in holistic practitioner, I was removing chronic illness. The next thing that occurs when you start to feel better in your body is you look up from being complaining about what's happening with your body and you go, oh, I have a partner or somebody that I want to be a partner with, and I've ignored them or I haven't been able to be present with them. And they've asked me against my own will. Initially, they've asked me, these clients, they said, Eva, we want your advice on how to fix this power dynamic within, or what can we do? And it turns out, well, I like doing that work. So it's through experience that I learned how to work with individuals and couples on how to move past their blocks to get to the next stage of their relationship, whether it's with themselves or with others.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And what a journey you've had and all the wisdom you've gathered that you're now sprinkling into the work that you do with your clients and with others. So amazing. Now, I'm curious already because the topic of the conversation today is so intriguing. And we know that chronic illness obviously is very prevalent in today's world. Chronic pain is also, there are a lot of things, stats that say, up to 50% of people in the world are experiencing some form of illness or pain that's chronic. The fact that we are talking about that there is a rise of single people in the world and that is somehow connected to chronic illness has me completely in awe. So what is happening there and how did you figure all this out? Where did you find all of this?
Well, was it organic? Just I have an autistic mind that's really good at connecting dots in ways that most people don't notice. And it's interesting that you say 50% of people are experiencing chronic illness because guess how many people are also experiencing singleness? And people, let's identify that. We're talking about people in their prime, midlife, who are somewhere between 30 and 59. They're professionals. They've got other things going on. They're leaders in their life, but somehow they keep dating or meeting people that are the same, but in a different, I call it meat suit, a different body, and experiencing this terrible dating life that the complaint is among the singles out there who want to meet their partner. Well, where are all these wonderful women or men that they're at home at cozy with their socks on in front of TV eating popcorn. Like they don't want anything to do with a bad relationship and they're tired of it. So yeah, 50% of people in their prime of life, and this is in the United States, that's a stat from 2021. It's probably risen since then, but it's become an endemic of its own.
That's actually a lot. I mean, if you think of that, right? 50% of people who usually would be married to someone or be in a partnership with someone have children. And what causes this part that then goes into chronic illness? So what is it about being single that can make us ill?
Well, I think it's a combination of things. It's always energy that comes from a place. And sometimes the direction is I'm single and therefore I have ways of thinking about life that are also affecting my health, or my health is not being supported well in the lifestyle I'm living, and therefore I am single. You could look at it from both directions, and I don't think there is one magic pill. There's no blue or red pill that you can take. I think it's a correction that's long overdue that has been created with one bad social decision after another by our society as a whole. That's a lot of words to say. There is no one solution and there is no one particular problem. It just is. And the question I'm coming up with, well, let's go back to our basics. If we can give the body what it needs so that it can heal itself, that will free up the emotional space, the mental ability, and your spiritual self to engage. You got to engage with yourself first. And if you're so engrossed in, I don't feel good, all I can do is kind of wake up, submit myself to as much coffee as required to get to my next appointment, sit there and do my job in the day, and then go home and crash. That's not life. How are you going to feel comfortable inviting somebody into it? And then on the other side, the common complaint, especially among heterosexual women, is that men are aging their physical body, but their emotional state has not caught up. And so they find themselves dating grown children. And men resent that. They're like, oh, we do work now. Yeah, it's a different kind of work than that women have been focused on now that we have an ability to, with choices. We have choices to be in the workplace. We have choices whether or not to be a mother. We have choices and power in places that we previously could not, that society wouldn't allow for us. I think when the 1950s or so, the 60s, when my mother, she gave me this story, she already had an established bank account and a job when she met and then married my father. And once she was married, she was not legally allowed to keep herself as the only owner of that bank account. Not only did they add him without her permission to her account, they made him the primary owner. That to me is monetary abuse that society all decided at that time was normal and appropriate. So we've corrected some of those things and given ourselves some ability to be more on an equal playing field. Then you've got this other thing is like, well, I'm looking for my equal. No, you're not. You're looking for your complement. because men and women, regardless of their physical gender, we all have gifts, spiritual, emotional, and physical, that complement the other. And dismissing that and saying, oh, we're all equal is a big mistake.
That's really interesting because most people actually do look for a partner that's their equal. So that might be causing some issues in the relationships or how that comes together after. Very, very interesting. Now, you've mentioned some of the changes, obviously, in your mother's generation, my mother's generation, or my grandmother's generation. Things looked very different for women. And many of the choices we have available today were not available to the previous generations. So, what has changed in society since maybe our grandma's generation that is making it so difficult to have relationships last? I mean, the divorce rates have gone up as well. We know that. So, what is happening and what has happened over the past few decades that is making that so difficult?
Yeah, there are a lot of religious pastors who will blame not being religious enough on this issue. And I don't think it has to do with religion at all. I think it has to do with owning who we are as human beings and growing into our possibility of whatever that is at the moment, because we're constantly expanding and then growing into that expansion. But if you decide to stay small, then you're left behind. And I think I go back to piece of knowledge that I have that I live by, and that is that femininity is something that we all are gifted with from the beginning, regardless of our gender. If you decide to stay in that feminine kind of flowy, I'm being taken care of, I love being mothered, whether that's by your mother or whoever's raising you, and you don't have somebody in the home to father you, to say, masculinity is something that you are to achieve. You need to learn how to take calculated risks. You need to learn how to provide for yourself and eventually someone else maybe. But you cannot just go through life thinking that it's going to continue with what you grew up with. And that masculinity part hasn't been disseminated. It hasn't been taught. It is another issue with single women raising children, especially boys who never grow up. I don't know if you've seen these on Instagram, these poor adult boys doing a selfie video with their laundry in the laundry room, and they're mad at their mom. I can't believe this. You let me go out into the world. I don't know what these machines do. I got dirty clothes and you let me move out without showing me how to use them. Well, he's being the victim. How much child can you have? On the other hand, he or she was responsible for showing him how to do it. We've got to raise our children to be adults, and we've missed that step and decided we should enable them to be children and provide crying rooms in colleges when Trump got. We really have to help people learn how to regulate their emotions. That's me being tough mom. I was also single mom, raised my kids, but you know what? They're launched. They are out in the world doing their thing, and confident adults not in my house dependent upon me. We've missed a step as society. And then when it comes to relationshiping, we haven't learned how to resolve conflict. It's an easy one. If you don't agree with me, then you're my enemy is a common problem. If you keep that up, you will not be able to have a relationship. We've got the wrong idea about what compromise is. Stop compromising a relationship. Compromise means something is broken. And I learned that being a practitioner. If the body's compromising itself, it means it's overcoming something it shouldn't have to. So this is about coming to win-win, learning how to collaborate with people. So these are things that I learned along the way that were compromising my relationships and my health, both at the same time.
Wow, that is really interesting. And I do assume that your children know how to do laundry. So there's one point checked off.
From before the age of 10, they were doing laundry with me. I said, I can't do all this myself. Yeah. You got to learn how to cook. So they learned 10 basic meals that they're now better cooks than I am, I think. How to take risks, how to negotiate. As a big one, teach them how to negotiate. Those are the things that I taught my kids. It's important.
It seems like there's a bit of a vicious cycle, so that when women have the choices now, and maybe they do choose to leave relationships, we can work, we can have bank accounts, driver's licenses, we can be self-sufficient. So a lot of the time we don't need to, and I'll put this in air quotes, put up with the man anymore. That also leads then to, like you said, being a single mom in many cases. That also means that as a woman, then you have to bring in the bacon so that you can provide for your child, which also means you're there less for them because you're spending time at work. So is this a cycle that perpetuates then? Because we do have a lot of single family units now. They're single dads, single moms, and sort of this traditional two partners and maybe even grandparents, or like a unit, almost like a village, little village that used to raise children, doesn't exist anymore like it did sort of in the post-war generation. So is that a cycle that contributes to all of these issues?
Absolutely. The cycle, and then the added pressure from society that has taken that family support away. We're putting our elders into aged homes because they're on so many medications, have so many side effects, and aren't healthy enough to help us with raising of our children and our family. That's another chronic illness issue. So longevity has become a focal point for my business. How can we get to longevity without being on medication? It is possible. You can do it. So we've lost our wisdom in our family. When you have even fathers or men who have jobs but are emotionally absent and unsupportive and still don't realize that when the trash is full, they don't need to be told to take out the trash. They should just see that it needs to be done and take it out. But instead, they're put all of the onus of the household responsibilities on the shoulders of the woman, quite typically. And it's not the woman's job to hold the house head down, especially if she has a full-time job. It's everybody who's in the house learning to take responsibility as an adult. And that shift has not quite occurred. It is something that is a kernel that is starting to be watered and nurtured in society here and there. You see it being sprinkled. But if the man, particularly in this example, is not engaging in personal development and personal growth and thinks himself to be the king of the castle, I make money and that's all I need to do, that shift is not going to happen. Many times women will leave that relationship in order to get the freedom from the tyranny, over expectation. And maybe it sounds oversimplified, but if a man is only being monetarily supportive, he's missing out on emotionally supporting the family, emotionally supporting the wife, and being there as a father figure. He can be there, but absent. And that's what I mean.
Yeah. And we do, I think, see a lot of that also because it is becoming harder and harder to support a family with just one income in many cases. So not only do we see absentee partners because they have to work even harder or maybe have several jobs, but also the second partner in the relationship having to also go and work, which then leaves, because the grandparents, like you said, generally they don't live with the family anymore. So that leaves a lot of children just kind of fending for themselves while the parents are trying to provide. So everything seems to sort of be turning into this vicious cycle. And you said there isn't really a solution. So where do we go from the situation that we're in today? Where do we even start? Are there any like small steps that we can take towards a better future?
Yeah, the biggest one is to love yourself first and stop living a sacrificial life. There was a Dr. Mateus, I think he is out of France, who speaks very clearly on the link between cancer and the fact that those who are developing cancer are living that sacrificial life. And they think that giving up what they want for the sake of others, living an obligatory life without any self-care, it leads to developing cancer. I believe that wholeheartedly. That is also the number one thread among all of my clients in the Reveal program, which is the optimal health program to remineralize the body. And that I have noticed is the common thread. Oh, I can't make my appointment. I have to make dinner. It's so aggravating. If you do not take care of yourself first, there will be no one to take care of your family. We need to stop thinking that there's a gold star waiting for us somewhere in heaven after we die that will be awarded to us for doing what is the air quote expected of us. And women fall into this trap more than men, but men fall into it too.
Yeah, I do hear a lot of women expressing that they even feel guilty for taking time for themselves and taking time to actually figure out what they want in life or doing things that help recharge them, because there is this expectation that you don't need that as a woman. You can just handle it and take care of everything. So yeah, it definitely contributes, I think, to those illnesses developing and stress developing. You know, stress is a huge underlying cause of many illnesses. So everything's connected.
It is. And I like to say this about stress. Stress is not necessarily the drama of life. if your boyfriend knows about your husband or vice versa, that's stress of drama. But the stress of the body and what creates chronic illness is the relationship of minerals in the body. And the minerals are reflected in your chemical sense. And guess what creates chemicals? Our emotions. And if we forget that, we're at a loss. We do not have to depend on drugs. We have the best pharmaceutical right here in the body. We're built in with it if we just tap into it, and listen to our emotions as a GPS device. Where am I? What does it mean for me? Where am I going? What's next? Is this getting me where I want to go? If you ask the right questions, you can get where you want to go and have a sense of ease. Get rid of the guilt, get rid of the trauma, get rid of the drama, get rid of all of those things that rhyme with drama and trauma. You can live a life of more ease and flow. And I think that's what everybody wants. Give me some ease and flow and a little bit of love on the side. And that's fantastic.
So some of the listeners might be wondering at this point, what if they feel like they have no choice? So costs of living are rising. Maybe they split up with their partner and they feel like they're sort of trapped in a place where they have to go to a certain job because maybe they can't find anything else or it's not available to them. They might not have any savings. Healthcare might not be the best for them. When they feel trapped like that, are there still choices that we can make towards changing that cycle?
Absolutely. Anytime, I forget who says it, whether you think you can, as Ford, whether you think you can or cannot, you are right. That's an important thing to remember. As soon as you say, I can't, really question yourself. Is it that you can't or that you won't? You're unwilling to make that risk for yourself to get to a better place? Rethink that, because at some point you're going to hit rock bottom on that decision and your life will basically hit you over the head with a 2x4 and let you know we're going to change things for you if you don't change it for yourself. And so decide what you want in life and then make the itty bitty, the baby steps towards that progression. You may not be able to make the change so that you wake up in the life that you want tomorrow, but making that first step and that decision to go forward, it's a journey. It's a journey worth taking. The biggest mistake that we can think, I see a lot of empty nesters who are at a loss for what to do with their life now that they don't have their children at home. And it's a warning that if you are putting all of your energy into just raising your kids and not giving a little bit extra every year of percentage of time and energy into your own life, then you will have that problem by the time they leave the house, because it's natural, normal for them to leave and grow up and move on. And we have to stop as mothers clinging to those kids. That's part of the problem. And also the opposite is true. It's a balance. We really have to reach a balance of not over injecting ourselves into our kids' lives, thinking that as now our responsibility. No, you are getting in the way of their personal and spiritual development if you stay in their life too aggressively, telling them what to do for a living, etc. Those are cultural things. But having boundaries and learning how to develop those, I would start there. Start with the boundaries. Don't let other people tell you what you can and can't do. Think your own thoughts. Don't let your thoughts think you. These are all things that I teach on how to do. And it's, again, you're not going to take this podcast and go, oh, I'm fixed. I know what to do now. Like I said, you're intelligent people with an ability to think for yourself. And if you could do it on your own, you would have by now. Get the help. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's through insurance companies or with a psychologist. Maybe it's with a coach like me. So it's like find somebody who has what you want, has been where you are, and has achieved the goal in a way that aligns with your own values. That's what I recommend.
That's really powerful. And I think that's also very empowering for people to look at it that way and maybe start opening the door to the possibility that change can be possible, even if you feel that you're trapped in a situation at the moment or things are not the way that you would like them to be. There is that little door that you can keep pushing open and maybe making some changes there. Now, looking at the situation, it doesn't strike me as this is something that will change very quickly. This seems to be a sort of generational, societal, maybe even global problem that is going on. So where are we headed then for the future? Will this be resolved, do you think, at some point? Can we change the way that we live as a society to actually make this more positive and have better relationships?
Well, in my little world of my head and my imagination, I live the possibility already that people can, if they choose to change, will, because going towards a place that's less painful is more desirable than the one that keeps you in pain. So for me, that world exists where people have an emotional maturity that matches their age or exceeds it, that they have boundaries and they don't expect others to maintain it for them, but they themselves know how to communicate and resolve conflict for themselves. Those two things right there, I mean, customer service would change immediately. Responsibility for self would change immediately. I hold the light of this world does exist. It exists for me. It always shocks me whenever I see somebody choosing to live a life of emotional pain, physical pain, spiritual pain. You don't have to do that. Will it happen overnight? No, but it can happen individually for your own little space like it has for me. You can make your world whatever you want it to be because it's all mental.
Yeah. And then it does have a ripple effect. I think if we kind of do our own thing first, we work on ourselves, collectively, that I think ripples out into the world. It does make a difference. So yeah, I do look forward to some of those changes because I think the world really needs that. And especially considering, like you explained, the amount of single people and the amount of chronic illness, considering how that's on the rise still, I think it would be a really, really good thing to start with ourselves and then go outward from there. Yeah. Now, you have touched on some of the things that you work with your clients on in some of the programs. Do you want to let our listeners know what you offer for programs and services so they can kind of get an idea of what that would look like to work with you if they would like to?
Yeah, and it is comprehensive. I've been downloading, learning from my own guides, wisdom, and angels for years now, and not to mention certifications from physical 3D people. So it's a huge list of things that are on offer, and I don't expect anybody to remember them, but I'll give you the candy store version. So the Ascension program is the name of what I described earlier. It's the let's get you past the block to the next level, right? Ascension is about rising into your highest potential. It's not a destination. It is a stop along the way because you'll continue to grow. Sometimes, and this is where the Ascension is made up of these three parts. So sometimes your body is in the way, and that's what the Reveal program is for. We can make your body the most ideal you've ever seen by giving it what it needs when it needs it. And that's physical. It's purely physical. We're talking about how your metabolism works, if your body's getting rid of toxic metals, which then can help to improve your immune system, kill off viruses, bacteria, things that don't belong, fix your microbiome, help you sleep better, etc. That's the Reveal program. That's pillar 1. Pillar 2 is the Restore session, and this is spiritual development. It's my own mystery school. I help people get rid of these spiritual blocks, whether that is ancestral. So it comes in from 7 generations back and it's not mine, but I need to get rid of this because it's affecting my life. Oftentimes we get blocked there. And it's more than just generational. It's things going on with hexes, curses, spells, demonic possessions. If you think they don't exist, what am I getting paid for too? That's the big one. And plus, that's my favorite thing to do. I consider myself an agent of free will and heaven's agent, particularly if there's something going on keeping you from doing what you want to do in this world, not just want, but are supposed to do. That's a problem. I want to fix it. And the third pillar is called essential love. And this is helping you restore all of those things that we were just talking about are problematic in relationships, how to build your preferences, your values, your trajectory. Where are you going in life? How to meet your divine soul partner, how to bring that person in. And then when they arrive, you know how to interact with them in a healthy way, not in the way that you have been that created things like divorce, or I can't believe this guy did this again, or this girl, she showed up and she's just a, gold digger. We need to get away from those old toxic behaviors, heal the injured masculine, heal the injured feminine, and bring in the divine. And that's the work of essential love. So you can work independently in any one of the three, or you can work on all three at the same time, and I'm your guide. But that's the overarching theme of everything that I offer. Clear the block to what's next.
Amazing. And Eva also has her own podcast called The Perfect Balance Podcast, and you can listen in from your favorite podcast provider. And we, of course, will be linking to all of Eva's offerings in the show notes as well. So you don't have to remember those by heart. We will link to them and you can go there and check that out. You can find out how to connect with her and what her programs are all about. And we will put that in the show notes for you. Well, this has been another incredible episode, and I really hope our listeners have enjoyed our journey into the rise of singles linked with battling chronic illness as much as I have. What a topic. I have really enjoyed this conversation, and it has been fantastic chatting with you today, Eva. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care of yourself. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to listen in. If you enjoy the Journey podcast, please support us by subscribing, sharing on social media, and leaving us a review. We appreciate you. And you can find more of The Journey on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and our website, thejourney.com. Sending you love and courage, and see you next time.